Alrighty, we will go ahead and get started here in a second. My previous recordings have been a little wacky at the very beginning, so I'll give it a minute here. We'll jump right on in. Okay. Looking like we should be fine here. So this is my underlying causes presentation. During it, we're going to go ahead and have our client scenario painted, as well as some questions to ask that particular client, as well as just some client questions to ask generally that we could apply to somebody in a very similar scenario. So the client scenario we are presented with is we have a new client who is struggling with weight gain. This client believes that this weight gain is a combination of factors, mainly eating out too much, as well as stress. Feel like they have a very busy life because they have a corporate job and 2 children. So the questions we're going to ask them are going to be generally related to A, solutions, and B, we want to find out more about this person that we are going ahead and dealing with. Very first question we would go ahead and ask is, what are your weight goals? So for this particular client, obviously we know that they're wanting to lose weight, but we want to know this question so that we can get a sense of what they're looking to gain out of coaching. So some spinoffs to this could look as follows. Are you looking to gain or lose weight? Are you looking to gain muscle or get lean? Some more physical type questions. And what are they looking to gain out of weight loss? Just to get an idea of what their motivation may be. Additional to that, we're going to want to know what their eating habits are. Obviously, we know generally that they feel they eat out too much, but we're going to want to know what the problem is at hand so we can show some areas of possible improvement. So some spin-offs to this question could be, what types of food do they eat most regularly? Do they snack often? What types of snacks are they eating? In this particular scenario, with a client that has identified they feel they eat out too much, we want to know what does eating out too much look like to this person? Does this person eat out every day? Do they eat out every other day, a couple days a week? We just want to know that question so we can have an idea of what they're already going through to get an idea and a sense for potential solutions down the road. What are your sleeping habits like? So another kind of general question. Now, one thing to notice about sleeping habits is it is a major factor in weight loss or gain. So in asking this question, we can identify a potential hidden solution for this client, something that they may not have thought of. So some spin-offs to this obviously would be, how long do you sleep? Do you have hard times waking up, going to bed? In this particular scenario, one way that we could both build rapport and get some good information, some data that we can use, is this client's sleep affected by their children? And if so, what ways? Do they have, are they all night owls? Do they spend a lot of time watching Bluey? Great questions to ask to get an idea of what we're going on with. Next, we're going to want to ask what their current exercising habits are. As most people know, exercise as well as diet are really the 2 main factors in weight loss. So this is kind of relating directly to the problem at hand. Some spin-offs to this, just to get some more information once they get us an idea of general exercise habits, are how many times per week do they work out, and what does their exercise consist of? Are they primarily a cardio person? Are they just doing some light weights? Are they doing some sit-ups at home? We want to know all of those questions so we can not suggest something they're already doing. What does their schedule normally look like? Obviously, this is more of a timing question. Since stress was also a factor in this client's scenario, we want to find out where that stress is primarily coming from. So finding out what their schedule look like could be a good look into that. Also, on top of that, obviously, as many of us know, cooking can take quite some time. So we want to know if they even have time currently to go ahead and start making food instead of going out. So some spin-off questions for this could be, what does their kids' schedule look like? What times per day do they spend driving? As well as what time per day do they currently spend making food? So we can get an idea of if they're already currently spending a ton of time on food, are we really going to want to suggest they spend more time doing that? If it's not something that they're currently doing, we want to have an idea of that as well. Next, what time of day are you most productive? This is going to relate to more of a personality question to get an idea of, again, some solutions that we can suggest. We want to know, are they a morning, afternoon, or night person? And does their productivity depend on the type of day they're having? So if they have a work day or a weekday versus a weekend, can that time change? All of this is to get an idea of, if we suggest a solution, we want to make sure it can stick for this particular client. Next, what are some poor habits that this client can self-identify? Again, a very general question, but we're starting to get more into the meat and bones of the problem at hand. This is obviously a much deeper question, so we're going to want to build rapport before that. And obviously, since this is a much deeper question, the answer is going to give us some wild spin-off questions that can greatly depend on the answer. So for example, if the client says, well, right now my bad habit is eating out too much, we can ask the question, why do you feel eating fast food? Why do you feel rather you eat too much fast food? Just to get an idea of what they think the main factor is. Is it timing? Is it, they just don't have the energy, right? We want to know those things. To this particular scenario as well, many people in corporate life tend to carry their stresses home. And I would imagine, since this client has identified stress as a potential area, we want to go ahead and ask in what ways they're currently carrying stress home. Again, a very deep question, so we want to build rapport before asking this question so that it doesn't immediately shut down our client. Why do you think you're gaining weight? Another deep question, kind of, again, diving into the real heart of the issue here. We want to know, is it really just because you're eating out too much, or do you think there's more to why you're eating out too much, or is there more to the situation at hand, right? Some spin-offs to this obviously could be, what kind of stressors do you have in life? Obviously, they have identified stress. What are some strategies that they already have in place to alleviate that stress? We want to go into those particular scenarios so that we can suggest maybe even something to add to that, right? If they have a strategy or if they don't, we want to know that. Additional, kind of adding to the previous question, we want to know what other bad habits they can identify that may be leading to their weight gain, just to get an idea of if there's something that they already have in mind that they are looking to improve. Next, we're going to want to look into what type of support system they have. So what's meant by support system here is the type of people that they have in their life that can help them with either their stress or eating out too much, or coming up with solutions. So obviously we're going to want to dive deep into this by asking, do they have involved parents? Do they have a husband and wife that's involved? Do they have close friends that they can lean on? To this particular scenario, does their job offer child service cares, so that we can go ahead and see areas that we can improve their schedule? Obviously, that is one issue that they've identified. So we want to find out, okay, what are some areas or people that you can ask for help in this time of need that you have? Next question, and one of the final questions we want to ask, what kind of resources do they have access to? This question is different in kind to the support systems question, as it focuses more on the types of activities and things like that this type of client can actually participate in, rather than asking types of people that are in their lives. So obviously, these spinoffs are going to depend based on the examples given. However, we want to know, do they have a gym membership? If they do, how often do they utilize that? Do they already have childcare in place? All of these sort of resource type questions will give us an idea of, if we're going to suggest something, it's not something they're already doing. It's not going to shut down our conversation right away. Now, obviously, the root causes can vary pretty wildly. They can go from pretty mundane to something very serious. So we want to go ahead and separate those out. Obviously, as a wellness coach, we are not trained in clinical mental health. That is not something that we are set to do. So we want to make sure that if that is something that the client is going to need help with, that we refer out. So a couple different root causes that I've identified potentially. The stress and eating out too much could be related to all the things that we've mentioned. Their schedule is too busy, because of their job, because they carry some stress home, and because of a lack of support. Because of all those factors, they feel they're eating out too much, gaining some weight, and that could be for a plethora of different reasons that they're gaining that weight, but it is due to those factors that they've identified, and that's something that we as a wellness coach can identify and say, okay, boom, Perfect. Let's give you some solutions to that. Let's find some ways that we can add some time to your schedule. Let's find some ways to alleviate that stress. If it's more serious than that, if it's something along the lines of a potential eating or sleeping disorder, that is obviously going to be above the coaching pay grade. So what we will want to do at that point is refer out either to a dietitian, somnologist, somebody that can help them with what they need. If it's, anything more serious than, just some potential areas of improvement with life, we want to make sure that our client obviously is getting the best help. And unfortunately, we would not be able to provide that if that is something that is more serious than what we've previously described. Okay, pretty straightforward and simple. Hopefully that explanation provided all of the deep-seating reasons behind those questions. And hopefully we get that client going because obviously that's really our goal as some coaches. Thank you so much.